just one little piece of educational opportunities that I want to share with you is there's no real, I'm going to go through some things that have worked really well for me in the past. So this is just one of the little things that I've done every day for the last 43 years. Actually, it was taught to me probably when I was in a class when in my 6th or 7th year of real estate. And it's not difficult, it's not hard. In fact, it's really, really, really simple. And that is my #1 key to success. So if you've heard me say this before or I've done this before, you probably know what it is already, but for those that haven't did it, it's probably politically incorrect today to use the graphic that I used, but that's very simple, and that is use the cheapest form of advertising every day 10 times. And that's your business card. So this is my little supply, and you guys all did a great job. I have in here, refill every day 10 cards. Do not go home till they are all gone. I mean, real simple. Wow. Belly to belly 10 times a day is what the graphic means. So face to face 10 times a day. Put 10 cards in your purse, put 10 cards where it is easily accessible. And again, you guys did a pretty good job, 32 seconds, and there was cards up here within 2 or 3 or 4 seconds. That's exactly what you want. You want that card on your person. Again, no secrets. You don't want it in a card file in your car. You don't want it in your purse. You don't want to bury it at the bottom of your purse. You want to be able to say, hey, who are you? Oh, I'm Craig Roberts, Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate. How are you? And you want to be able to quickly just get it, great. Quickly go into your pocket and hand them your business card. Cheapest form of advertising. You should be going through 3,650 of these a year. Okay? That's 10 cards per day in a year. So if you still got your original 1,000 business cards from 5 years ago, you're doing something that shouldn't be done. You should be ordering 2,000 or 3,000 cards a year, and they should be going out because that's the cheapest form of advertising. Now, I don't necessarily today, after doing this for 43 years, meet 10 people a day, but those cards are still gone by the end of the day. Whether it is including my business card in my Visa bill, including my business card in my Verizon bill, including my business card in my Spectrum bill, Seattle City Light. I used to be, we used to have papers in the Seattle Times. So we used to get a bill. I used to include my card. I got a call from the Seattle Times lady that opened up my bill 20 years ago, and she said, yeah, you know, I've got your desk, my desk is full of your cards. My mom passed away, would you list our house? She didn't know me, but she'd been receiving my business cards once a month in my bill. So it's a little thing, but it really works. So 10 times a day, somehow get your face or your name out to those people, and trust me, it really works. Whether it's an open house, whether it's, you know, you can do it all at one time, but that's it. So that's my #1 key to success. Meeting's over. Is that it?
That's great. Thank you so much.
So the next thing I want to talk about is I've been doing this for 43 years. I'm a dinosaur in the industry. When I say dinosaur, when we started, there was no such thing as a fax machine. There were no computers. There were no cell phones. There were two-way radios, which we actually incorporated into our company really well. But there was not the technology that's available for us today. The system I use that is my second most important tool in my business is a system that I started with. Karen Lavallee, who's still a part-time agent at Windermere Real Estate, was my instructor when I was 20 years old. She was my teacher, and she's the one who introduced this system to me. It's the exact same system that I've used for 43 years, and it's one of only 3 things I do to maintain the volume of business that I do, which is anywhere between $20 and $25 million in real estate sales per year. This is antiquated. It's on paper. It doesn't involve a computer. It doesn't involve Word. It doesn't involve cloud sharing. It doesn't involve anything. It is a notebook of addresses. This is it. So the thing is, what do you do after you sell a house, after you close a house? That's what this is for, is to keep track of your clients. Why is that important? I challenge you the next time you're out with somebody and somebody has a conversation about real estate and they say, oh yeah, I bought a house 5 years ago. Ask them, who was your realtor? I'll guarantee you 90% of the people you ask who their realtor was on a sale that occurred 5 years ago won't remember their agent's name. That is something you cannot do in this business. You need to constantly tell your past clients who you are and where you are. Now, I've been blessed with one other thing. This is a card file of every single business card that I've had in my 43 years of business. This is different offices, this is different locations, but the one thing that's never changed is 43 years ago when I got my first phone number, it was 932-4500. My phone number today, if you need to get a hold of me, is 932-4500. So my phone number's never changed, so consistency is very important. Your clients can't forget you. You've got to figure out a way to get your name out to them. So this is the system that I've used successfully for 43 years. It's pretty simple. I simply write them a card on the anniversary of their purchase and say, congratulations. Thank you for allowing me to represent you. If you need anything else in the future, let me know. And of course, there's a business card in there. The other thing that I do every December 1st is I mail out a calendar to that sphere of influence with a letter highlighting the year, highlighting what's been going on, and encouraging them for the next year to give me a call if they have any needs for real estate. So these 2 items, along with my face-to-face meeting 10 times a day, are the 3 items, and the only 3 items that I've ever done in real estate in 43 years. And it's not difficult. Of course, there's open houses, there's advertising, there's everything else that we're taught every day. You don't need to come away from this with anything more than trying to hope for 1 or 2 items that is going to help you in the future. So the personalized business cards, or personalized notes on the anniversary, I mean literally on that sheet of paper you'll see that I have the date of closing. I've given one of my older examples, before I was typing on them, of handwritten notations. But I put on there not only the date that they closed, but the purchase price that they purchased it for, because back then we didn't have accurate enough records on a computer to be able to look up. We'd have to get that information from the title company. Now it's instantaneous. The date that they bought it, but also the interest rate that they paid, their monthly payments, and how much cash that they used to get into the property. So I can use that. For an example, when I write out my most recent one, this will be sent out next week. Dear Stacy, congratulations. Today marks the 9th anniversary of the purchase of your home. Thank you for allowing me to represent you back in 2011. Can you believe you only paid $385,000? Question mark. Congrats. And that was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Genesee Hill that today's probably worth $850,000. So in 9 years, she's more than tripled, almost tripled the value of her home. So that's hopefully in this little card, something for her to get excited about and say, oh my God, thank God I used Craig Roberts to buy a house 11 years ago. And I'm just reminding her of that fact. Nothing big, nothing fancy. Then I continue and say, please don't forget, should you ever have any questions about real estate or your mortgage, please give me a call. I look forward to working with you in the future. I haven't asked for anything except to call me if she needs me. And that's been one of the longevity career issues that I've been able to be blessed with, is the fact that people still call me. And it's little things. It's this card. And so I can send people out. In fact, I think John and I just worked on a card. It was their 38th anniversary of the purchase of their home, and we looked up the records. Yep, they're still there. They refinanced with my wife when she was a mortgage loan officer 12 years ago. They will still call me to refinance, and I'm always kept up to date. So this business card has been vital and I use this card and the calendar, and my phone continues to ring on a consistent basis. And that ringing of the phone is what I say, you know, am I still going to be relevant? Well, I'm relevant as long as I'm still active and I'm still attentive to my clients' needs, and these are the ways that I try to continue that throughout the year. Questions? So this is a system that, of course, today would be totally different. It's all going to be on computer. John's putting everything down in, on the computer form and creating a program that this will be easily accessible to. But I'm still the dinosaur that I always was, and I'm not going to change. I don't change very easily, so I'll still keep my paper files, thank you. And it works for me, and it's very easy. It's portable. It goes anywhere I can go. It requires you know, some note cards, some stamps, and a reminder of when their anniversary date is. And so what happens after 43 years of selling real estate is I'm sending out 1 or 2 cards almost every single day. I mean, I've closed over 3,500 transactions. So when you've closed 3,500 transactions, there's 365 days in a year, you're sending out multiple cards per day. Now, it's not every day, but it surely ramps up in the middle of February, end of a month. June and July is kind of crazy because all the activity that would have happened in April and May. But it's really nice for people to get that card. They're not planning on selling, they're not planning on moving, but their mom might, their parents might be moving into a nursing home or whatever, and that's where your referral business comes from. So the one thing you want to try to do in real estate is not to do repeat, or not to have to continue doing the same thing over and over and over again every single year, getting new business. Your sphere of influence is absolutely the #1 most important.
Charlotte Roberts.
Hi, Hannah. Is the most important referral business that you can get. Sorry, now I'm all concerned why she's calling. So the sphere of influence, you work half as much or not as hard in trying to continue a sale with somebody you worked with previously than you would with a brand new client. Brand new client starts everything all over again, but using your sphere of influence is so important. So use that sphere of influence, and that sphere of influence is only going to work, and that brings me to my next point, if you've had a successful transaction. So a successful transaction is where somebody buys a house, closes a house, and they're happy. So what do you do when that transaction is over with? Well, I usually give a gift of some type, whether it's a bottle of wine, a gift basket. Years ago, we used to do gift mats with their names on them, doormats. Whatever it is, give them something to remember you by, but make sure you're there. You don't have to be there for the signing of their closing papers and escrow, but make sure that when you transfer over those keys, you're there. Because it's really important on that last meeting to give them something to remember you by. Make sure that you're hearing what they need to be, what you need to be told. Are they happy? If they're not happy, then the next thing in my presentation was do what's right. If you can take anything away from anything I've ever done in 43 years is do what's right. I learned that lesson 40 years ago, 35 years ago, by making small mistakes. Small mistake was 2 weeks after closing, a client called and said, "Hey Craig, my washing machine broke." I was a 25-year-old naive person. I go, "Okay, did you use it since you closed it?" "Yep." "Did it work when we closed the transaction?" "Yep." "Well, nothing I could do. Thank you very much." 4 years later, she listed the house with another real estate agent. I called her up and I asked her, "Hi, what happened? Why didn't you list with me?" She said, "Well, Craig, a couple of weeks after we closed, my washing machine broke and you told me nothing you could do about it." So for $345, I lost $3,455. That's what the commission was back then on a $60,000 house. Do what's right. If your client calls you and tells you that their washing machine broke, fix it fast, quickly. Tay and I joke, how many hot water tanks did I replace last year? 14. How many washer and dryers have I purchased in my career? thousands, literally thousands. How many sewer lines did I repair at my expense? Dozens. Whether it's $500 or $5,000, do what's right. The commission that you earn from one client, today it's getting pretty crazy. But I use one client in particular, Tessie DiMartino. When I first met her in 1979, she didn't like the ownership of my company. She hated the ownership of my company because of something that happened years ago and I was being tested. But she was referred to me by one of my good friends. So I garnered her trust and I ended up listing her mother's house. This is back in 1979. House was probably $60,000, maybe even $50,000. But it was a successful transaction and it closed. From that point on, she was a CPA up in White Center. From that point on, she would refer me business. Over the last 41 years, she has referred me 210 transactions, closed transactions, Tessie DiMartino. And I've kept track of all those transactions, which is why I can say how many there were. Those 210 transactions probably garnered in income to me over $1 million. So imagine one client, if you do what's right the very first time, can generate $1 million worth of real estate over your real estate career. That's one client. If you do what's right with your 5 clients a year or your 10 clients a year, and that generates more and more and more referrals, you don't have to depend upon having an open house 10 years from now. You don't have to depend upon getting new business 10 years from now. That business will automatically find you because 10 years ago, you did what was right. So I'm not expecting you to take 50% of your commission or 30% of your commission, but if there's a client that has an objection, make sure you don't just slough that off and walk away and say, they'll be okay, they'll be fine. Dig deep, find out what that objection was and fix it. Because that closed transaction is the first of many that's going to come. That's your sphere of influence. You need to cultivate it, you need to protect it, and you need to make sure that you don't do anything to screw it up. And that sphere of influence will then garner you literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in the future. Questions?
I do have a question. So you do cards daily, multiple cards a day, more days than not. But a lot of agents in the room might not have as many sales as you have, or even maybe very many sales at all in their career. They might be new. What would you target if you were them to be also getting, utilizing cards as a way to get belly to belly?
So 10 times a day. Again, whether it's face-to-face or whether it's, my poor relatives. I have 17 cousins, 27 second cousins, 8 aunts and uncles I did. They have hundreds of my business cards. So those were the people that I know liked me when I was 21 years old. So it was pretty easy to get my cousins to give out my business cards. My brother, my sister, my brother-in-laws, my relatives, they were the ones that helped me. I don't care who your sphere of influence is, but the next group of people was my high school buddies. So I was the chairman of my 5-year reunion. I was the chairman of my 10-year reunion. I was the chairman of my 50, my 20, my 25, and I think my 40-year reunion at Chief South High School, class of 73. I was the chairman because that gave me another 300 or 400 names that I got to talk with, or I got to have so that I could mail out or talk to them or converse with them about real estate. So you have a sphere of influence. It's your family, it's your friends, it's your old business acquaintances. If you're coming to us from a different career, I started my career in real estate. So I graduated from college. This was my first job, my first real job. Besides working in a factory and working in a welding shop and working in a paint shop, this was my first job that actually had the potential for something in the future. So if you're coming to us from another career, whether that be a computer company, Boeing, you had other coworkers that you work with. That's your sphere of influence. So the 10 times a day is what you can do. And that'll get to one of my next points too. Use it. And you need to sit and calculate who that sphere of influence is so that you can send those 10 cards out per day. So that comes up to my next point. I wrote this down and thought it sounded really cool, so I thought I'd bring it up. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, in a distant galaxy far, far away, real estate agents used to come into the office every day. Long, long time ago. It's really good to see all of you here, but when we first came here, it was exciting to get here. Dave Paxton and I used to get here at 5 o'clock in the morning to get the preview list. Again, there were no computers. They were delivered at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, the list of new listings that would come out. So we'd get here at 5 o'clock in the morning, we'd go previewing between 5 and 6, and we'd get in the office and start calling our clients pretty early at 7 o'clock in the morning so that our clients could be the first ones to see the new listing. So, but getting into the office, to me, was a way to get education, to learn, and to sell real estate. I swear I sold more real estate standing at the copy machine, call it a water cooler question, being in the computer room, talking to somebody else saying, hey, I've got a buyer that wants yada, yada, yada. And you say, well, I've got a seller that I think that the two might work together. So we sold a lot of real estate just being here in the office. So this is an incredible group of people. Use each other and make sure that you are, and it's a very friendly group, participate. And this company does that better than many other companies that I've seen. Whether it's community service, whether it's previewing together, if other people are working, so should you. Of course, being here in the office is not needed like it was before, and I'm probably the best example of that since I don't live in Seattle. I'm here in my office 5 days a month and still manage to produce some pretty high numbers. And that is that sphere of influence that I've cultivated over that career. You should be treating this like any other job. So whether you want to put in 20 hours a week and make $20,000 a year, and by the way, you only put in 20 hours a week, that's all you'll make in a year, or you want to put in 30 hours a week and make $45,000 a year, because that's probably all you'll make if you work 30 hours a week, or if you want to put in 40 hours a week and make between $50,000 and $85,000, or if you want to make an income larger than that, you're going to have to put in the time to make that kind of income. There's no secrets to this. Input your time and you will be rewarded with a greater income than the other people that aren't working as hard as you are. So there were times when I would work 60 hours a week. My wife will tell you that there were times when I was working 80 hours a week, and I was. As a result, I think that helped me get a better income. And every client that I got, every closed sale that I got was just one more that I knew would lead to 10 more. And so it was very important in my early career. I mean, I don't think I took a day off in my first 3 years of real estate. I had open houses 3 days a week, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 hours a day. It was brutal, but that's, if you wanted to be successful, you have to treat this job like any other. If you have a job at McDonald's and you're working an 8-hour shift, you have to work 8 hours and you probably get 2 20-minute breaks. You've put 7 hours and 20 minutes into a day working for other people. If you put 7 hours and 20 minutes a day of hard work in the office, and if you get bored, then you don't get to go home yet until you finish that 7 hours and 20 minutes of time. Figure out something to do. You don't have to go through 10 cards a day. Go ahead and go through 30 or 40 or 50, however many it takes, but don't go home just because, well, my list is down, oh, it's 10:30 in the morning, I guess I get to go home. No, you still haven't put in the time that it takes to garner an income that is commensurate with what you want to make. So stay here. And don't go run an errand. You don't need to go to the dry cleaners, don't need to go to the post office. You don't need to go grocery shopping and pick that thing up. You don't need to go change your oil in your car. Stay here and work, and if you don't have anything to do, figure out something to do so that you're still working and generating leads or incomes or phone calls that will get you to the point where you're gonna have a buyer.
Craig, I have a question.
Yes.
So, from what I'm understanding, from what you're saying is you really only touch base with your past clients twice a year? A calendar and a note, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, at my age, people come up and say, hey, Craig, when are you gonna retire? When are you gonna quit? Paul says that all the time because he doesn't like the competition. He wants to be number one again. Sorry, sucks, doesn't it? Anyway, I tell people I'll be done when I'm no longer relevant. And when I'm no longer relevant, that means my phone's not ringing. And my phone rings every day. Now, I might not get a transaction every day, but that phone rings and I'm cultivating that just like anything else. Somebody might have a question about, hey, Craig, my mom and dad are going into a nursing home. What do I have to do? We need to protect their assets. I say, hey, let's put their name into a trust. Let's deed the property into an LLC. You know, do you know anybody that can do that? Yeah, I do. So I will help them for that. A lot of people that I work with, I do a lot of work for free. And it's free because if they need the services of a real estate agent or a notary or a referral for a plumber, a referral for an insurance agent, a referral for an electrician, I'm the guy. They've trusted me in the past to do the real estate, so I'll get calls saying, hey Craig, got a good plumber? You bet I do. Got a great plumber. And here's his name, give him a call, tell him Craig Roberts sent you. So that is what my day is too. I might be working 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day that I know will not garner a commission check. I'm not gonna get paid. But it's for that future transaction that I know I'm going to get. So I might do complimentary market appraisals for estates, knowing and hoping that if I do a good job, if I do what's right today, then they're going to say, yeah, Craig Roberts did that thing for the estate 4 years ago. Let's call him to list the property now that we're ready. So every day I'm talking to people, but it may not be to the sphere of influence of the parties that I've closed in the past. But that's where I believe I garner most of my income. In fact, I can guarantee that's where I come from, most of my income. Questions?
Craig, how do you do listing presentations, showings, etc., when you're over there?
Well, today it's almost all electronic. So most of my conversations will be on a computer and verbally. That's something that everybody's a little foreign to today, I understand. I mean, you can look at your clients, and I know that my clients that are over 60 to 80 years old, they want a phone conversation. The clients that I have that are 40 to 60, they're emailed. The clients that I have that are 30 to 40, they're text. And the clients that I have are 20 to 30, I haven't figured out yet because they're so screwed up, I don't know what to do. I mean, nobody, 20 to 35, they don't even want to talk to you anymore. I've done entire transactions without a phone call and without a face-to-face meeting. I've got one going right now, closes Friday. I've never seen the property. I've never shown the property. Client called me up, and it's a $40,000 lot in South Park. But it's a client that I've sold probably 14, 15, 16 properties to. And I'm his real estate agent. When he wants to do something, he calls me. So it's a $40,000 lot sale. You know, it's not a lot of commission, but it was something, and wrote it up, presented it, got it accepted, and it's closing on Friday. All cash sale, no big deal.
Pays for some wine, right?
Yeah, a couple bottles. And I just got the Lee and Eddie order, so I'm gonna
Oh,
need
there
it.
you go.
So, yeah, hopefully that answered the question. So, when I'm in Walla Walla, I still work and I think my wife will disagree with this. I say I still work 40 hours a week, she'll tell you I still work 60. I'm on my computer at 5:30 in the morning, and I usually finish about 6 or 7 at night. So I'm still there every day, and I fly into town when a client needs me. So I'm in a transaction right now where we wrote an offer last week, we had it presented. This was the inspection week. We've gone through the inspection, we've gone to the house now 3 times. And I've been able to come in, and I'm flying in next week, and I've got another appointment I've got to fly into the end of February. So it's a $69 plane ride, so for me it's nothing. I'll come in if I need to. But that's been something that I've worked on over the last 3 years. That when I first moved over there, I was here 3 weeks a month, and there 1 week a month. Now I've done an opposite. So John, my business partner, is instrumental in how I've been able to not live in Seattle and still maintain an incredible amount of volume in the Seattle marketplace. I still do a little bit of business over there, but I prefer Seattle, and this is where my business is. So in the course of a day, and the other thing is, because of today's technology, people don't know I'm in Walla Walla.
Right.
They don't know I'm gone. I can be sitting here, I can be sitting there, I can be on a beach in Mexico, which is what I was when I got the call to buy the lot. I wrote up the transaction, or John wrote up the transaction, but we were able to get it presented and accepted while I'm drinking margaritas on the beach. So it doesn't matter where you are anymore, but for the business to grow, my belief system is going to be different than yours, but my belief system, which is based on what happened 20 years ago and 30 years ago, was most of my business occurred because I came to the office every day. I can't stress that enough. It's just being people, hey, Sherry's working. Sherry's at the copy sheet. Sherry's on the phone. I'm not on the phone, maybe I need to get on the phone. I'm not making copies, maybe I need to make copies. I don't know of what yet, but I'm gonna make copies of something. There's a class that I need to attend classes, my God. George will tell you, when we had our company, when we were in our 20s, we had a video seminar every other weekend, 3-day seminars, 2-day seminars, company-wide seminars, 6 hours here, 8 hours here. I mean, we got motivational speakers. We attended all of them, and it was company-wide. We had 1,200 agents, and 1,200 agents would show up at Long Acres for Zig Ziglar, or whoever the motivational speaker of the day was. Tommy Hopkins. Nobody has heard of Tommy Hopkins here, I'm assuming. Tommy Hopkins was a construction worker who decided to go into real estate, and he became a motivational speaker. He was funny as heck, and anytime Tommy was in Seattle for a 1-day, 2-day, 3-day seminar, we went. We had Lou Tice, Pacific Institute. We went to every Lou Tice seminar, 3-day seminars. My kids went to the teenage 3-day seminar for positive speaking and positive motivation. Yeah, you guys are all independent contractors, so there's no one here that's going to motivate you more than you. So if you need to be motivated, if you need to do something to jump out of bed and put in those 30 hours or 40 hours, or however many hours you want to make or put in for the income that is commensurate with that time, then that's what you want to do. You can make $1 million in this business in a year. You can have career earnings of, and by the way, the other thing I was going to talk about is, do you know what you did last year and how you got that business? Every January 1st, you should be looking at your past clients and figure out where those businesses came from. Where was that listing? How come you got that listing? How come that person decided to call you to give you that listing? Where is your business from, and where will it come from in the future? So the one thing that I learned at my age, I'm 64, is that my age people, and people that I've sold houses to that are older than I am, their parents are dying. I did 12 estates last year. 12 of my clients' parents and 2 of my clients, aged 52 and 61, died last year. I've become an expert on estate sales. That's where my business is probably going to be this year. I've already got 1 estate. So, not that that's a morbid thing to follow, but if that's where my business has come from in the past, that's where I want to focus in the future and make sure that if I do hear that somebody passed away, I want to be able to send a condolence card or make sure that, I'm not ambulance chasing, but just to let them know I'm there. But usually that's going to happen anyway, because if they die and if I've done my job correctly over the last 40 years, I'll get that phone call. And I'll be able to assist them with the estate sale, the estate planning. The other thing we do with these cards is I also find out a couple that just had a baby. I sold a house to 4 years ago. Well, gosh darn it, I'm gonna send them a card. Congratulations on the baby, but I'm also gonna put that in their note card. I'm gonna put in here and tag their card, baby born April 2nd, 2019, 8 pounds, 7 ounces, 21 inches, okay? So when I send them the card next year in April, I'm gonna write, congratulations on baby Blair being born April 17th. I'm sure that she's no longer 8 pounds, 6 ounces. They're gonna say, how the hell did he know that? It's been a year, but I wrote it down, and any of my clients that I do know, or somehow it gets back to me, whether I see it on Facebook or social media, then that goes into the database and I use it. So the same thing I started talking about in the very beginning is many customers don't know who their real estate agent was 5 years ago. That's what you can't have happen. They can't forget you. Do something to be in their minds all the time. If it's twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, I don't like to inundate my clients. That's why I don't have a monthly newsletter. Monthly newsletters I think we still have, or you can do. I don't use Facebook as a platform for my business. I never have. I watch other people do it. It might be good for them, it might be great for them, but it's just not what I do. So figure out what does work for you and do it, but make sure you keep that information, your information, in front of your clients as much as you can. The other thing is, what did you do last year in production? This is, again, part of being an independent contractor and self-employed is Tay's here, management's here to kind of try to motivate you, but you need to be self-motivated. And you always want to try to do better this year than you did last year. So when I went back through and I looked at my statistics, if I were to go back 5 years ago or 6 years ago and I would see, wow, I had a really good year back then, what did I do differently? And I would try to then focus my new business the following year on what my analysis would have been from previous year's productions. So I probably can't recreate 1986, the year my daughter was born, when I got 67 listings, 59 sales, and 37 listings sold. I probably won't ever recreate that kind of volume. But I was motivated because my daughter was born.
That's awesome.
Never had a kid before, I was scared to death. The next year when my son was born, I was scared shitless because I got 36 listings, 26 listings sold, 21 sales for a total of 47 closed transactions. But I also know what I did 30 years ago. I know what I did 40 years ago. I kept track. I'm anal retentive, OCD, AOP, whatever the thing is, about notes and yellow stickies and everything else. It works for me. Pick something that works for you. Don't follow somebody else's mantra. Don't follow somebody else's program. Figure out what your program is and follow it. But just go back and make sure you do what's right for your client. So do what's right is, if you can pick 3 words from anything that I've ever said in my career, do what's right is something that I believe in with my heart, and I'll never change. And if you do what's right, trust me, phone will continue ringing, and when you're 64 years old or 65 years old, you'll still make a whole shitload of money, and everybody still loves you. So that's what I have.
Nice.
Do you remember where you were March 11, 2002?
Ooh, March 11th, 2002.
Oh,
Yes, I do. Oh my God, New Orleans. Have you been putting pictures up here all the time?
That's been up there the whole time.
That was
Just that one.
Thank God.
Sorry.
Because there's photographs that I would thank God are not out there.
None of the ones of you passed out.
No, not that one?
No, not that
Okay.
one, no.
The one, how about I was naked?
That
Not a pretty picture, guys.
one's going out in the email.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Who were you with there, Craig?
That is George T. Butterfield.
Oh,
The mystery man.
Was
Exactly.
his West Seattle Yacht Club.
really?
My hair wasn't really that long, but it sure looked good.
Nice.
Questions? Wow. Good
We
job.
really
Speechless.
appreciate, no, we really appreciate your
Good, thank you.
sharing
Thanks.
with us.
And my door, I say this to everybody, the new agents all the time, my door's always open. So
It's true, you answer every phone call.
anytime you want to come in, anytime you have a question, call me. Lisa will tell you.
You always
If
answer.
she has a question, I don't limit her to 5 minutes. We'll talk for an hour. If she has a question, and I'm happy to give her what words of wisdom that I have, or just to give her some examples. So anytime you have a problem, if Tay's not available, trust me, I love to talk to you and tell you an easy solution or a solution that's worked for me in the past. Don't have to take my advice, but it's just another opinion of how you can make it right for your clients. And that's the whole thing about this. I've never been in this industry to make money. Money was always came as a side note. I don't know why I wanted to become a real estate agent, except that my mom made me get a job the summer between my junior and senior year of college and said, "You're not gonna stay home like you did last summer, go get a job." So I answered this help wanted sign at Home Finders on 35th and Henderson across from 7-Eleven store, the library. And I went in and I said, "Hi, what do you do?" "Oh, here." Sit on the floor, answer the phone, go list a house. Back then you didn't need to have a license.
Oh, wow.
You got to work on a permit for 6 months. And so I was legally dangerous. I sold my parents my first house. And that was $7,150. My commission was $365. I thought I died and gone to heaven. This is 1976, excuse me, when a college graduate from the University of Washington Law School was making $15,000 a year. So my first year in real estate, I made, and I only worked for 6 months because I graduated in June, my first year in real estate, I made $3,948. My first full year in real estate was 1978. I made $15,238. I equaled the income from a graduating attorney from the University of Washington Law School. And from there, every year it's gone up. So this was a great career. This was a great career path I chose when I was 20 years old. I didn't know that this was going to be a career, but I really liked sitting in an office, smoking cigarettes, and going out for 3 martini lunches. Trust me, that's what we did. We all smoked. Oh my God. You cannot imagine the change that has occurred in our worlds when you used to have 15 real estate agents sitting around a bullpen smoking cigarettes, and a cloud would come up and a client would walk in and they'd be smoking a cigarette, it'd be okay. But anyway, that's all changed now. And trust me, the 3 martini lunches, I thank God those are gone. We used to come back in the office at 1 o'clock with drunk as could be, and then the boss would come, which is Dan DeSantis. Dan DeSantis was my first manager. And if you know him, he works independently at another real estate firm, but he'd come in and he says, "Okay guys, come on, get off your ass. First guy to bring me a listing gets $50 cash and the first round of drinks at Red Baron at 7 o'clock. We were motivated by alcohol. So in our drunken stupor, trying to recover from our 3 martini lunch, we'd start making cold calls. And we would try to find somebody that wanted to list their property. If we could get a listing, by 5 o'clock, we'd get $50 and a drink. And hell, that was great motivation. And we did it. We actually went out and got it. There was no secrets to how to get a listing. And our listing contracts were legal sized, 8 copies, pressed hard with carbons. And it was on 1 sheet. Remember those days? It wasn't as complex. Market appraisal? No. Joe DiGiulio, I went on my first listing appointment with Joe DiGiulio in March of 1970, June of 1976. And it was on 35th Avenue, and Joe goes up and tells the guy, "Well, I think I can get 18.5 for you." And that's based upon Joe's knowledge of the real estate that was occurring at the time. So he said, press hard, 3 copies, 18.5. Went out to his car, pulled the sign out of his trunk, put it in the front yard, put in a key box on the door, went back to the office, sat down at his desk, called up one of his clients and said, hey, John, I got a house for you, 18.5. Back then, there was no agency disclosure, there was no laws, but the biggest thing back then was the commission split. The commission was 7%. That's because we didn't have a house that was over $100,000. Commission was 7% when it was split, 1/3 to the listing office, 2/3 to the selling office. So when I started the business, no one wanted to list because you didn't make as much money. Well, I saw this opportunity as an opportunity to sit in my office and smoke cigarettes because everybody who was taking floor, if they got a listing call, they'd give it to me. So that's why I got 67 listings my second year in the business, because nobody else wanted to list. Well, after 4 or 5 years in the business, when it finally went to 50-50, I was already listing more real estate than anybody else in West Seattle. So, and I'm 24 years old. So it just naturally progressed into something great. But yeah, those are the old days, and you guys I could be here for hours. But yeah, we used to drink a lot more back then. Thank God for that. Well, maybe not.
Thank you, Craig.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. My favorite Craigism, I will share it. I was hoping you'd say it today, but he did touch on it a lot, was if you treat this like a real job, you will make real money, right? If you treat it like a real
Absolutely.
job. Yeah, Craig will tell you a story about how I came to him when I was 12 years old and said I wanted to sell houses.
You were 16. He was 16 years old. I was his parents' realtor. That's where I lost a lot of my business when all my clients become real estate agents.
Yeah.
Brad Wilson.
Yeah.
Tay's parents, I went to high school with. And I knew them when they were dating in high school.
Yeah.
And they're the longest married couple that I know. They've been married for 42 years.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So I watched Tay. Karina, his mom, was pregnant with Tay. And, you know, when we bought their 3rd house or their 4th house, I think I probably did 7 or 8 or 9 transactions with your parents.
Something like that, yeah.
So Tay, at 16 years old, comes to my office.
I didn't mean for you to tell the story. I
Baseball
said,
cap
come and ask you about this.
on the back of his head, and I go, yeah? And I've watched him grow up since he was a kid. He goes, I want to be a real estate agent. I mean, he actually aspired to be a real estate agent. Who does that? It's a sick guy. But he aspired to be a real estate agent. He wanted to start really early, and I didn't want to dissuade him, but I did kind of dissuade him. I said, hey, look, go to college, have an experience. You still want to do it when you're 18, come back, and he did. Came back when he was...
Well, I was, after college, I was
21, yeah. He came back and got him going. So, but Tay was 16, sat down in my office, and I want to be a real estate agent. What do I have to do? And I told him the same thing. I said, just come to work every day. Treat this like a regular job. Treat it like you are employed by somebody. Treat it like you're the employer. You're the employee. You're the CEO. You're the CFO. You're the janitor. You clean up after yourself every night. You have to. But come to work. If it's, like I said, if you want to make, and people have grandiose ideas about how much money you can make in this business, there's no limit except by sanity for getting too many transactions, which is a really bad problem to have, I'm sure. But if you want to make $50,000, you will. If you want to make $30,000, you will. Because if you put in the time and effort, you come here to the office or whether it's home, if you put in 40 hours a week, my belief system is you will make $100,000 a year. You may make a lot more. You may be really good at it. You might make $200,000 or $300,000, $400,000. But if you put in an honest 40-hour work week, honestly, 8 hours a day you dedicate yourself to real estate, you will be a successful real estate agent. You can't. It's osmosis. You just cannot not be successful. I've watched a lot of people put in 50 hours a week, and I've watched what happens to their income when they put in a little bit of extra time. Their income goes up. So I think being in the office, being around this group of people, highly successful, motivated people, is awesome. And I don't care where you are in your career, if you're just beginning or you're a seasoned veteran, just keep doing what you're doing and do what's right.
Yeah, right on. That's my biggest lesson from Craig forever is get your ass in the office, 8 in the morning, 5 at night, or 6 at night, go home and call it a day. I know you're later than that, but good. Thank you, Craig. Thank you.
Thank you.